In 2007, Nokia controlled nearly half of the entire global mobile phone market. Think about that for a second. Almost one out of every two phones sold on Earth carried the Nokia logo. The company was everywhere, from Europe to Asia, from small villages to major cities. Nokia dominated the world. Its phones were famous for being reliable, durable, and nearly indestructible. Millions of people trusted Nokia. Investors loved Nokia. Competitors feared Nokia. At its peak, the company was worth tens of billions of dollars and looked completely unstoppable. If you asked experts back then which company would dominate the future of mobile technology, most of them would have said Nokia without hesitation. But then something happened. A company with no experience in the phone industry entered the market. At first, Nokia didn't take the threat seriously. That decision would cost them everything. Within just a few years, the most powerful phone company on the planet lost its dominance, its customers, and eventually its entire mobile phone business. The king of mobile phones had fallen, so how did the biggest giant in the industry collapse so quickly? And how did Apple manage to defeat a company that seemed impossible to beat? This is the story of how Nokia failed. Nokia's story began long before mobile phones existed. The company was founded in Finland in 1865 as a paper mill. Over the next century, Nokia experimented with dozens of industries, including rubber products, cables, electronics, and telecommunications. By the 1980s, Nokia started focusing on mobile communications. This decision would completely transform the company. While most businesses viewed mobile phones as a niche product, Nokia saw the future. The company invested heavily in research, engineering, and wireless technology. As mobile phones became more affordable during the 1990s, Nokia was perfectly positioned to dominate the market. Its devices were reliable, durable, and easy to use. People loved them. By the early 2000s, Nokia had become the largest mobile phone manufacturer on Earth. The rise, 230 to 7. Nokia's rise was nothing short of extraordinary. During the 1990s and early 2000s, the company transformed from a telecommunications manufacturer into the undisputed king of mobile phones. At a time when mobile technology was still developing, Nokia consistently stayed ahead of its competitors. The company understood something many others didn't. People didn't just want phones that worked, they wanted phones they could trust. And Nokia delivered exactly that. Its devices were reliable, easy to use, affordable, and built to last. One of the best examples was the legendary Nokia 3310. Released in the year 2000, the phone quickly became one of the most successful electronic products ever created. Millions of people around the world owned one. Even today, decades later, the Nokia 3310 remains a symbol of durability. Stories about people dropping their phones from buildings, running them over with cars, or using them for years without problems became part of internet culture. People joked that Nokia phones were indestructible, but behind the jokes was a serious reality. Customers genuinely trusted the brand. As demand for mobile phones exploded around the world, Nokia was perfectly positioned to benefit. The company expanded rapidly across Europe, Asia, Africa, and South America. In many countries, owning a Nokia was practically the default choice. For millions of people, their first mobile phone was a Nokia. At its peak, the company sold hundreds of millions of devices every year. Its factories operated around the clock. Its supply chain stretched across continents. Its logo became one of the most recognizable brands on Earth. By 2007, Nokia controlled more than 40% of the global mobile phone market. To put that into perspective, imagine a single company controlling nearly half of an entire industry. That's how dominant Nokia had become. Competitors simply couldn't keep up. Motorola struggled to maintain relevance. Sony Ericsson failed to achieve large-scale growth. BlackBerry found success among business users but never appealed to the mass market in the same way Nokia did. No matter where consumers looked, Nokia seemed to be winning. The company's revenue reached billions of dollars. Its profits continued growing. Investors viewed Nokia as one of the safest bets in the technology sector. Many analysts believed Nokia would remain the industry leader for decades. From the outside, the company appeared invincible, but while Nokia was celebrating its dominance, a storm was quietly forming on the horizon, and it was coming from a place almost nobody expected: California. A company called Apple was preparing to change everything. The decisions that changed everything, 7 to 11:30. On January 9, 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto a stage in San Francisco. What happened? Why Nokia failed hook 00 to 030. In 2007, Nokia controlled nearly half of the global mobile phone market. If you owned a phone, chances were high that it was made by Nokia. The company was worth billions, dominated every continent, and seemed impossible to defeat. But just a few years later, Nokia collapsed. The king of mobile phones lost everything. So how did the most powerful phone company in the world get destroyed by a company that didn't even make phones until 2007? This is the story of how Nokia failed. The beginning, 030 to 230. Nokia's story began long before mobile phones existed. The company was founded in Finland in 1865 as a paper mill. Over the next century, Nokia experimented with dozens of industries, including rubber products, cables, electronics, and telecommunications. By the 1980s, Nokia started focusing on mobile communications. This decision would completely transform the company. While most businesses viewed mobile phones as a niche product, Nokia saw the future. The company invested heavily in research, engineering, and wireless technology. As mobile phones became more affordable during the 1990s, Nokia was perfectly positioned to dominate the market. Its devices were reliable, durable, and easy to use. People loved them. By the early 2000s, Nokia had become the largest mobile phone manufacturer on Earth. The rise, 230 to 6. Nokia's rise was extraordinary. The company created iconic devices like the Nokia 3310, one of the most successful phones ever made. Its phones became famous for their durability. People joked that a Nokia could survive almost anything. At its peak, Nokia sold hundreds of millions of phones every year. The company controlled over 40% of the global mobile market. No competitor came close. Motorola struggled. Sony Ericsson lagged behind. BlackBerry served mainly business customers. Nokia seemed unstoppable. The company had massive factories, billions in revenue, and one of the strongest brands in the world. Investors believed Nokia would dominate for decades. Then everything changed. The decisions that changed everything, 6 to 9. In January 2007, Apple introduced the iPhone. Many executives at Nokia were not impressed. They believed touchscreen phones were a temporary trend. After all, Nokia already had thousands of engineers and decades of experience. Why should they worry about a company known for computers and music players? This was one of the biggest mistakes in business history. The iPhone wasn't just a new phone, it was a new way of using technology. Apple transformed phones into portable computers. Soon after, Google launched Android. Samsung quickly adopted the Android ecosystem and began improving it every year. While competitors moved forward, Nokia remained trapped in old thinking. The company continued developing Symbian, an operating system that was increasingly outdated and difficult to use. Instead of simplifying its software, Nokia made it more complicated. The gap between Nokia and its competitors grew larger every year. The crisis, 9 to 12. Inside Nokia, problems were becoming impossible to ignore. Employees later described a culture of fear. Managers were afraid to deliver bad news. Executives often ignored warnings from engineers. Decision-making became slow and bureaucratic. Meanwhile, Apple and Samsung were innovating at incredible speed. Consumers wanted app stores, touchscreens, and modern user experiences. Nokia couldn't keep up. By the time the company realized the threat, it was already losing market share. In 2011, Nokia made a desperate move. The company partnered with Microsoft and abandoned Symbian in favor of Windows Phone. But it was too late. Developers focused on Android and iPhone. Customers followed the apps. Without a strong ecosystem, Nokia's new devices struggled to attract buyers. Sales continued to fall. The company's dominance vanished. What happened next, 12 to 1330? In 2013, Nokia sold its mobile phone division to Microsoft for more than $7 billion. For many people, it felt like the end of an era. The company that once ruled the mobile industry had effectively surrendered. Microsoft itself later abandoned the smartphone business. Ironically, Nokia survived as a company by focusing on telecommunications infrastructure and networking equipment. But the Nokia that once dominated the phones in our pockets was gone. Nokia's downfall wasn't caused by a lack of resources, talent, or money. It happened because the company underestimated change. When the smartphone revolution arrived, Nokia believed its past success guaranteed its future. It didn't, and that's the lesson. In business, being the leader today means nothing if you're unwilling to adapt tomorrow.